5, 6, 7, 8. It's a mess, sis. Oh, it's a mess, sis.
Hello, everybody, and
Oh, it's a
welcome
mess,
to the
sis.
podcast. It's a mess,
Oh, it's a
sis.
mess,
So, what
sis.
exactly is a mess?
Oh,
A
it's a
mess
mess,
is a
sis.
situation or a state of affairs
Oh, it's a
that
mess,
is
sis.
confused or full of difficulties.
It's a mess,
The
sis.
mess is when things don't go
Oh,
the
it's a
way you
mess,
plan.
sis.
It is when you have to go off script,
5,
improvise,
6,
ad
7.
lib, sit through the
It's a mess,
awkwardness,
sis.
and breathe through the pain until you
Oh, it's
come
a
out on
mess,
the other
sis.
side. Because you will come out
It's a
on the
mess,
other
sis.
side. It is everything that makes life
It's a mess,
interesting
sis.
and transformative. It is what
It's
we
a
are here
mess,
to do.
sis.
It is how we learn how
It's a
to
mess,
be.
sis.
So, join us as we
It's a
dive
mess,
into
sis.
this week's mess.
It's a mess, sis. Oh.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to It's a Mess, Sis, my favorite podcast. I'm Jessica, and I am a mess. I've spent my whole life chasing perfection, only to realize that there is no such thing, and chasing it led me down a road to misery. I now know that peace and alignment should be my goal in all that I do. Through these episodes, I've been able to explore my deepest fears and my wildest fantasies, and I hope you guys will join me for the ride and do the same.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Rena. I'm your other co host, and I'm just out here living, y'all. I currently reside in the DMV. I'm a content producer, writer, feeler, thinker. I just like making things and being creative. I've been on my own personal self development journey for the past few years, and I'm using this as an outlet to share what I've learned, what I've struggled with, and what I continue to absorb because I believe that it can not only help myself, but others who resonate with my story and experiences. I'm also working to develop my vision and purpose in life, which I've pretty much narrowed down to talking and writing and loving on people while getting paid for it. And that's what I'm doing.
Perfect. So that is a little bit about us. And you guys are joining us for episode 37 entitled Sis, You Too Grown for That. What does it mean to be mature? And this is actually a really fun one. I'm really excited to get in there and like discuss it and all of that. But before we do that, we have a little segment called What's the Mess? And I'm going to ask Rena, what is your mess this week?
Okay. So my mess is that, for the past week, I've been in my feelings and just feeling a way.
Okay.
I feel like I'm experiencing a lot of new things from myself, and I'm learning myself and feeling myself out, and it's way different than who I thought myself to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to sit in it. I feel better, I look better, but I also feel like this kind of sudden shift and changes that I've been experiencing lately has left me a little confused.
Okay.
And I also feel like, people have been caught up in the transition in a messy way.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of waiting for me to settle in the new knowledge of myself, as I work towards mastery, like true understanding of myself.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've just been this whole week I've just been reflecting on how things are just really different now.
Yeah.
And I just find myself asking, like, how did I get here? And
Mm.
saying, I never thought I would be here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all good stuff, mostly. Like 80% of it is good stuff, but it's still like shocking. I just have these moments where I'm like, dang, I never thought that would be, or, oh, is that how I feel? Like,
Right.
oh, is that
Right.
me? So
Wow.
that's been my week. It's not a bad thing. It's a
Uh-huh.
mess, but it's not a bad mess.
Yeah. It's
It
just a
is what
mess.
it is. Yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
mess. It's life.
I feel like that happens though when you do like shifts, when you shift in like I mean, it happens at different times in your life. Like, so when you leave from middle school, you were this type of person. You went to high school, and like maybe your group of friends changed, or maybe your interests or your activities changed. You went from high school to college, and like, so there's these transitions in our life that puts us in positions where we're like, oh shit, I never imagined that this is maybe even how I would feel, or where I would be, or my style, or all these things. So I think it's really cool. I mean, I know it's a mess, and it's kind of sometimes it still can be like a little jarring when you
Right.
are outside of what you maybe have felt is your norm.
Hmm.
But I think it's dope that you're kind of like, let me just rest in it, because that's all it is. You just gotta settle into the newness of it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's all I can do. And I feel like this topic is helping me. I feel
Mm.
like this topic came out of my mess because I felt like, I would hit a level of maturity, and
Yeah.
then I wouldn't have these shifts. So I think
Okay.
kind of having that understanding of like me being where I am, like I'm not in middle school, I'm not in elementary school, I'm not in high school. You know, I thought
Yeah.
like once I got beyond college, then I would be more set in my ways, but I'm realizing I'm always evolving, growing. You know, that's what we are as people. That's what
Right.
we should be doing.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to cling to what I thought I should
Uh,
be, and that's why I just want to sit in it because
yeah.
I want to be authentic. And if who I thought I was is no longer an accurate reflection of who I am, then I don't want to carry that with me.
Period. That is a beautiful understanding because a lot of times we hold on to what we thought we knew about ourselves because it's comfortable,
Right.
it's
Right.
easy, it's
It
palatable.
is. It is.
Yeah, wow, that's really fucking dope. What a
Yeah.
mess.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
what a lovely mess. I love that.
All right. What about you, Jess? What's your mess?
My mess, my mess.
Oh.
I feel like this week has been a very communicative week from the universe. I feel like I've
Ooh.
received a ton of messages from like strangers and friends alike that I feel like I needed to hear. Just, it's not everything I know what to do with yet, but I can understand the significance to the message. You know what I mean? You know how sometimes something comes to you and you know that you need to hear it. It's not maybe the right time to put it into use, but I'm just storing it for that time. But some of them are like right now messages. So last night I went out to see a friend of mine. He had a live performance. They're doing those again. Wow. People were still masked. It wasn't very many. They had to have, still COVID restrictions. But so I went to his event and yeah, it was like dope. So I ended up sitting with another lady who came to see him. And she was a songwriter, you know? And so I just happened to end up sitting with her and we started talking between like the session and everything. And I'm like, oh, well, how did you meet him? And like, where do you sing? And she said she's been blessed to travel the world and sing and has written songs for like many major artists and all this shit. And I'm just like, what are the fucking chances? Like, And then she told me she had a song with Jeremiah. I can't remember the song right now, but it was like a popular song. Which was already like really dope, right? So then my friend makes me come up and I sing last night a little bit with his band. Yes, it was so freaking amazing. It was like so awesome. And he like made me do it because I was like, I don't have anything to sing. Like, he was like, you in your head, just go. So I just went up there, I made up some music and then and I left and they were like, encore, encore. So I went back and I sang Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, ABCD to the music. It was a fucking vibe. It was like so dope. Um, so afterwards I went back to sit at the table with the songwriter, and then we exchanged social medias and she was asking, oh, okay, am I going to see singing on here? And I, like, in that moment I kind of became self-conscious because right now it's just pictures of me looking cute as fuck. I do have a few videos, and so I sort of start kind of like rambling about how I'm coming out of this block of like my creativity, so I'll be able to sing more on there and blah 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 blah. And in that moment, she said, she asked because she passed on some words her mentor had given to her. And I was like, sure. And she said, you don't have a block, you don't have writer's block. Sometimes that song's journey hasn't been completed yet.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay. And honestly, that struck me because I have sometimes questioned my ability to be a legitimate writer because all I have on occasion is a verse or a chorus, and it takes a while for the song to be completed. And you hear these stories, oh, she wrote 10 songs in one day, or she wrote this huge hit song in a day. And um, yeah, so I began to doubt myself and my abilities and things like that. And another thing she said that struck me, she said, we're just the vessel in which the song is coming through, you know? And I don't know that I have fully processed it. I think I'm still kind of processing it, everything she said to me, but I felt like this weight kind of lift off of me to be complete in my entirety. Like my journey isn't complete. And that includes my writing, my singing, my acting. Like I'm not blocked. the work is still on its journey. And that is kind of what I took from that. And I think that's with everything. Like I've felt in the past that I didn't know why I couldn't just do the thing or just feel the whatever, and just hearing that here's this woman who's been so incredible, and her mentor is somebody who's had huge amazing songs. She said the mentor told her that this one huge song that she'd written took her 3 years to write. I don't know. And just hearing that from people who are like, successful in the area that you want to be successful in was just very powerful for me, because I just, as much as I believe in myself, there's still that little bit of doubt that you have to work through consistently and constantly to say, shut the fuck up. And so that was a beautiful message from the universe that, like, I'm not complete and I don't have to be. And even if I have a piece of a song, that song is not done writing, that song's journey is not done, and that just let me, like, my journey isn't done. I'm still in a journey. My process, my work of art, my being is still in the process of being written. And so yeah, I'm just kind of settling in that. Like I said, I'm still kind of processing it and chewing it over. But yeah, that's my mess this week. It's just, yeah, it was kind of dope just to have all of these little tidbits being given to me from different people about different shit that I'm like kind of like working through or processing. And so it's so nice to have um, help outside of yourself to kind of like align and put things together and piece things together. So yeah, that's my mess this week.
I love that. I love that. And I want to say thank you for that. And I feel like this, well, first, let me just say, I'm glad you got that feedback from multiple people and you really hear the message from source. It kind of reminds me of like our miracle episode,
Yeah.
because I know you've been talking about, yeah, I want to get on TikTok. Yeah, I want to post more videos, and it's like, we're just waiting. So I'm glad that you're at this point where, you realize, you don't have to have it all together.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're definitely getting a now, do it now type of
Mm-hmm.
message.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I feel like I needed to hear that. Like, I feel like this, what you just said, really ties in well to our topic, because all I think of is when I think of complete, I think of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I do a little writing or whatever. But
Yeah.
like you, like I only have a verse or a chorus and it's
Mm-hmm.
not complete. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
just do that and I'll walk away.
Yeah.
And then I don't really take myself seriously because I'm like, oh, that was just a little piece of something. That was
Yeah.
nothing. It's not like a
Yeah.
whole song. Like, what can I do with that?
Right.
And I feel like it has to be complete or
Mm-hmm.
mature for it to count.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like you're being challenged to kind of analyze that for yourself and define
Yep.
it for yourself. And I feel like I'm also being challenged to do the same because
Yeah.
that whole idea of it needs to be complete before you move. It's just it's perfection. It is
Yep.
fear,
Mm-hmm.
and really everything is just steps.
Yep.
That's movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Steps.
The steps. Yeah, I'm glad I could give you that too. I feel like a lot of artists, we kind of get into that space, or people in general, but I really, resonate with other artists, and I feel like we get into this place of just doubting the gifts that we've been given, but they are gifts, and like you said, the steps, I think we can see what perfection looks like, and because we're not quite there yet, it holds us back, and it um, hinders us from moving to the next step, because from step 1 to step 5 is so much better, but because you're not at step 1,000, you're like, oh, it's not great, but you've been moving, you're consistently moving and getting better and better, and you can only get to 1,000 steps if you take the first one, the fifth
Right.
one, the 10th, the 20th, so yeah, that's dope. I'm appreciative of the messages that I've been sent and that I could receive, so
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
I got
Yeah.
that, by proxy, so word up to whoever you sat with, because I
Yeah.
received that message too, and I appreciate that. Definitely. I definitely appreciate that.
So
I'm excited for
me
you. I'm
too.
excited for
Oh,
you to put yourself out there and to
thank
to see,
you.
because I mean, you got the musical coming up, so you got to like that's almost complete. So you
Yeah,
put that out there. You have been putting out pictures, which I know is hard for you.
it is.
So don't discount that, the fact, like, yeah, all I have are pictures of me being cute. That's a big deal for you,
That's true.
you know.
That's true.
But you're singing, put your singing out there, put your lyrics out there,
Ooh, got a little tingle when you said that. My lyrics, oh Lord. Okay, yeah, I can do it. I can do
Yeah, you
it.
can. You can.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that was our mess, which was dope. I appreciate you sharing your mess, and I appreciate you listening to mine. And so now we're gonna dig down this topic. If you'll remember, is sis, you too grown for that? What does it mean to be mature? So we have another little piece where I ask Rena, why did you want to do this topic?
So this topic, I said it a little earlier in my mess, that it kind of came about with me just kind of, sitting with this new me, or like, just figuring out who I am at this stage in my life.
Yeah.
So this topic kind of came up, because I've struggled with that notion of maturity. And,
Mhm.
earlier I said I thought to be mature meant you kind of just, you get to a point where you're good and you're
Okay.
complete
Yeah.
and you don't need to change anymore. And
Hmm.
that's not really where I am. Um, so I've always felt like I was immature,
Hmm.
with quotes implied, immature, or that I wanted to hold on to like my playful, childish ways, also quotes
Yeah.
childish ways.
Yeah.
I never was one of those kids who wanted to grow up fast. I love cartoons and cereal. I'm into sneakers and all these things that I've been told in not so many words are immature,
Okay.
and I'm always asked, when will I stop doing this or grow out of that? So now that I am older and I'm assessing myself,
Hmm.
this idea of maturity keeps popping up.
Hmm.
Um, so I want to know for myself what it means to be mature, not just take somebody else's idea or depiction of what mature is. I want to know for myself what it is, um, and even if it's something I want to be.
Yeah. That is actually amazing. Do I even want to be mature? Wow.
Right.
Wow. Hell yeah.
Right. And who said I had to be mature?
Period. I don't want your fucking maturity. No, I'm just playing. Well, I agreed to this topic because Rena had feelings about it, so I knew it would be good. No, literally, when either one of us have like an idea that just pops in our head, and we like, yo, I need to dig this shit down. It's like, hell yeah. So I jumped at the chance to dig this down because I also have conflicting feelings about maturity in my own life. And so, speaking of dicking it down, I'm gonna let Rena tell you what the agenda for this episode is.
Okay, so the agenda for this episode, as always, is to dick it down, which stands for define, impact, and cope. So, this episode, we will provide our personal definitions of mature versus immature. We will also name one thing that we have been told is mature about ourselves and one thing that we have been told is immature, and reflect on those things as viewed through our own personal definitions. Then, we will discuss the impact of the concept of maturity in our lives. And lastly, we talk about how we cope with our understanding, experiences, and feelings concerning maturity. One thing to note, we make each section clearly known. So you'll either hear us say, oh, we're at the definition, we're at the impact, or we're down to the cope. So feel free to pause throughout the sections to give yourself time to answer. If you want to, you can even jot down your answers and your thoughts. Just do what feels right for you.
Beautiful. So now that you guys know what's up, we are now to the definition. And if you've been following along, which you have, y'all know I like to get on over to Google to see what they're talking about. And according to Google, maturity is the ability to respond to the environment, being aware of the correct time and location to behave, and knowing when to act according to the circumstances and the culture of the society one lives in. So essentially, just knowing the time and place to act certain ways and how to blend into your society means that you've reached maturity.
I
And
don't
that,
know if I like that. Okay,
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
I feel like that's been my understanding of what mature is. And I feel like with that understanding, I guess I am mature. And I say guess because I've always had a mixed review of maturity. So, from an early age, I've always been regarded as being mature for my age, which to me meant there was this understanding that I was responsible and reasonably well behaved, which at the time I agreed with. I didn't usually act with reckless abandon like my peers, seemingly putting me and my maturity ahead of theirs. So it would seem that I was wise beyond my years, but really, in reality, I was just worried beyond my years.
Mm-hmm.
hmm So,
Anxiety.
yeah, being mature was always connected to being an adult, but I was never one of those kids that was ready to grow up. I saw adults being mature, and it seemed to carry this heaviness and like a lack of fun and joy. And I didn't want any part of that because it didn't seem pleasant. I never wanted this idea of being mature, even though I guess I even went so far as to like make a silent vow to myself to never grow up, which is what I naively thought maturity was.
Me too.
Um, and so yeah, that's the opposite of that is true. Immature is just being reckless and being ill behaved and not knowing the time and place to behave, inappropriately. Um, and and so yeah, I still still have these moments where I question what maturity is in my life because as Rena said in like the mess or whichever part she said, I still do things that people maybe consider childish. I'm very childlike. I laugh at like really horrible jokes. I love cartoons. I am silly. I am goofy most of the time. Like that is just who I am, and that's what I'm giving y'all. But at the same time, I still handle my responsibilities generally. I'm doing things on time. I'm paying the bills. I show up when I'm supposed to show up. I do the things that you do as an adult. So I don't know. It's it's still a matter of like it's still a question of what is maturity in my own head, you know. But go ahead. You
No,
had
I
to
was gonna.
say.
No, no, keep going. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
kind of like, yes.
Yeah. So I guess the other thing we wanted to point out was what has been pointed out as a sign of immaturity in our own lives. And I think for me, my aggression was always seen as a sign of immaturity. And I guess in the concept of how I've defined it, which was through Google's help, is acting in a way that's like the certain time and place kind of thing. So in a sense, I can understand why it was seen as immaturity because when I would get to a certain level of, I guess, aggression, time and place had no meaning for me. You about to see this aggression. I don't give a fuck if we in the White House. Fuck you and fuck what you just did. Um, so in that sense, I could see why it was seen as a sign of immaturity because it didn't come with the normal sense of like this is how you behave in this time and place. I mean, and I said the White House, but I still had some common sense, so I'm not gonna be in church cussing nobody out. But um a lot of times it would just come when I felt it. Like we gonna address this right now. I don't care where we at. I don't care who around. A lot of times, even I do remember like when I would get angry, I would cuss in front of my mom, and I'm like, look, you know what the deal is. Like I'm not cussing around you to be disrespectful, but I'm fucking pissed. Like you need to know that I am angry beyond measure. Like you know what I'm saying. So I can see that being a sign of immaturity because if maturity is how I defined it, using Google, then yeah, time and place and circumstances and how I was raised didn't really matter in that moment, and I didn't care. So yeah, I guess that's my definition of both immature and mature, and what has been regarded as something that I was called mature for and immature for. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Now, initially, when you read off the Google definition, it's not that I don't agree with it.
okay,
It's just like I do agree with it. I feel like that is what I've been conditioned to believe maturity is.
mm-hmm.
And it's just, but hearing it like stated like as the definition of it,
Yeah,
it makes me realize, oh, this shit was intentional that I think of maturity this way. It isn't
yeah,
just like this is something that everybody in mass, this is a mass definition that's been pushed. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about it because it's so outside of oneself, and
mm-hmm.
it's about society. It's about
Yeah,
you being aware of your environment, the correct time and location, and your behavior based on the society you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the piece that got me like, oh, I don't know if I like that. It's not based on what I want and how I want to represent myself and
Yeah.
what I think, and based on my morals and what I think is right. It's based on what society wants me to do. That's
Well,
maturity.
yeah, that's so much in our life. It's based on our society and what they want us to do.
And I get that. And I think that's why I have such an issue with the maturity.
Yeah.
Because there's something that it's like, it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
It's about, and not to like, be like me, but it's like it's about how I present to others. It's about what others want me to be.
Right.
And that's kind of, and I've always felt that. So to
Mm-hmm.
kind of see that definition out there, like I knew that's what it was. I knew that's what I was receiving, but I had never seen it like plainly stated like that. So I was kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
it really is that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with you. I made a vow that I was never going to grow up. I was definitely, with Jeffrey the giraffe, and I was going to be a Toys R Us kid for forever.
Oh, I was hella confused. I said, who the fuck is Jeffrey the giraffe? Clearly, I wasn't a Toys R Us kid. Damn.
Oh, damn.
Got my toys at the dollar store.
I mean, I got some of those too. I definitely got me a Power Zoid for sure.
What is
Instead
that?
of a Power Ranger, I got a Power Zoid.
It's not a power sword.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
I hit up the Dollar Tree heavily
Period.
as a child. Yes. So there's so much of what you said that just really like, rang true, whatever for me. Okay, so I guess I'm going to go into my definition of mature. I stumbled through this, y'all. So mature, I think I said that mature, like off of like the cuff. When I was just just off the cuff, off the dome. I was like, okay, so to be mature, I guess the conventional idea of being an adult, responsible, stable, knowledgeable, dependable, hardworking, those things.
Right.
And then I said immature, what I am apparently.
That's hilarious.
Childlike, aloof, not able to care for self. No, that's not true though. I can care for myself. Yeah. Not able to exercise proper judgment and discernment, which I'm working on. I'm not terrible at it because I'm able to care for myself. Yeah. But I do, I feel like, judgment and discernment and that evolution and having it is an ongoing process. So then once I got that out, and that was the first thing, that was my mind dump. Then I was like, oh, kind of like with the Google definition. I was like, oh, is that what it is? But then I was like, it's kind of crazy that I immediately just take mature to adulthood.
Right.
Like that's exactly where I went with it. Mm-hmm. So then I said, okay, let's step back and let's really ask yourself, what does the word mature mean? Right. So I feel like when I break it down to the bare definition, down to the bare definition, mature means to be fully developed, ripe, or whole. That's my understanding of mature at the basic level. If you remove adulthood and humanness from it.
Right.
And immature means the opposite: unripe, underdeveloped, undeveloped, not ready for its intended purpose.
Okay.
So now, and that's what I said. Once I kind of remove that human adulthood aspect, I'm thinking, okay, fruit can be mature, cells can be mature, wine and liquor can be mature, right. And vice versa. Mm-hmm. So, and then I realized that I think I prefer the bare definition, my personal bare definition of maturity, without the attachment to adulthood. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I've been told is mature about me, the fact that I'm independent, mm-hmm. That I can care for myself, especially as it pertains to traveling. I feel like people have definitely kind of looked at me as having some type of maturity because I'm comfortable with travel. Mm-hmm. And I am literally only comfortable with it because I've been doing it since I was 9 and I did not have a choice. Yeah. It's just something I know because I was dragged across a couple seas a couple of times and mm-hmm. I realized that I didn't die at that age. And then, I decided, okay, this is a thing that people do that I am doing. And it just made me realize how the things that we were exposed to when we were younger are so much easier to process than the things we come across as adults. Because as children, we don't have all that stuff, that adult stuff, that fear, that conditioning. Yeah. So I can't even take full responsibility for what somebody feels is mature about me, my independence and my traveling. I had to travel alone.
Mm-hmm.
I had, and as a result of traveling alone, you get used to filling out forms and then, and going through processes and asking for help. And, so you just become comfortable naturally, not because, I'm just some evolved, mature being, but just
Yeah.
because I was exposed to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the thing that I feel like is looked upon as immature for me is my sneaker interest for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and the way I spend money. But I ain't never asked nobody for money that
Period.
I ain't pay back.
Oh wow.
Uh, I I pay people back now,
Oh,
and
that's good.
I haven't asked for money like that was like earlier on in the stages. I
Mm-hmm.
asked for $50 here or there. I'm like, yo, this release is coming up, and it's gonna make me $50 short. Let me hold on to this. I get paid in 2 days, but now I'm at this point where I would just say, forget it. I'll forego it. Um, but seriously, all of my bills have always been paid on time. I have excellent credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm caring for myself, but I feel like because I like sneakers, people just immediately say I'm immature according to their definition of what immature is. And they feel like I somehow don't have my priorities together. They feel like that's like a red flag. Oh, you into sneakers? Oh, you just buy frivolous shit. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? People find money for what they want. I don't
That's
judge
true.
y'all spending 300 in the club for a $30 bottle. I don't think that's wise. But
Hell no.
that's what y'all want to do.
I don't think that's wise. That's funny as fuck. Is that what people are doing?
That's what people are doing. I'm like, that Patron, okay, maybe not $30. Maybe it's 54.99.
Yeah.
But you have, some lady bring it to you on ice in front of all your friends with those sparklers, and all of a sudden it's 250. No, 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 no.
Are you paying for the seats as well? Right?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't
Clearly,
care. I can
I,
sit at home.
wow. With
But
your
no, my
sneakers.
whole point of bringing it up, yes, with my sneakers. My whole point of bringing it up is that, like, it's funny how people will judge one thing as immature and something else as, not immature because drinking is a sign of maturity. That's like an adult thing to do. You're 21, you're officially an adult. Well, 18, but like 21, you're really, really an adult because,
Yeah.
you're not a teenager anymore and
Mhm.
you get to drink. Oh, that's a mature thing to do.
Well, see, I've always been, I don't know, maybe it's just the people that I hang around with. That has also been seen as immature in around the people that I talk to. Like going to spend that much money in a VIP section, that seems like a very young, minded situation. But I get what you're saying. People find money for what they want and what they think, what they deem as, mature spending, you could deem otherwise. So I get that. I think it's interesting though. Sneakers, it's just clothing, it's just shoes. So for it to be deemed immature is wild to me.
I mean, there's stuff that's happened. Like, I mean, a younger crowd, participates in like buying sneakers. But
Okay.
I mean, I feel like people are. I feel like I'm seeing this trend now, especially on social media, where older people, especially older women, like in their 30s, they're like, "Look, my feet hurt, and I'm trying to be cute out here, but these heels and my heels
Uh,
and my feet, they
right.
hurt." So there's like this mix now of
Uh,
sneakers and just more comfortable footwear
mm.
with, a more mature style.
Okay.
So
Mature style.
yes,
Was that
I don't
like
have that.
hashtag old? Is that what I'm gathering?
I don't think I meant it that way, but
Uh, uh,
maybe I
uh.
probably did. Well, not with mature style. I think more like because also I'm into streetwear, which is
Okay.
also seen as an immature style.
Okay.
But like I'm seeing men in like suits or like a sport jacket and like some jeans or something, and they'll have like some Stan Smiths on,
What's
which
that?
it's an Adidas sneaker. It's more just kind
Okay.
of like a basic sneaker. Or I see women with dresses. They'll be
Mhm.
wearing like summer dresses, flowy dresses, and then you look down, they have some Air Maxes on.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's this mix of like, more mature clothing. Because, khakis and a polo, that's seen as mature. But if you're wearing a hoodie and like jeans, or you're wearing some Supreme gear, which is a brand in New York. Supreme?
I
No.
got it. Yeah, yes. I
Oh,
I know what Supreme is.
oh, okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's no shade. I really don't be knowing shit. So thank you, but I know that one. That one's the big one.
Okay. So, that could be seen as being, immature. But like if you're wearing like, I don't know, like if you're wearing a high fashion brand, you know, some people think that certain people think that's more mature. And also it also depends on who you are wearing it.
Okay.
You know, when we getting into that, like I got a question about that. We gonna get
Okay.
later.
Okay. Well, then
So
what I'm gathering too is that so immaturity is proximity to age, like a younger age, a younger mindset, right?
that's what
Immaturity
I
is older with an older mindset, a more seasoned mindset,
I think would
right?
phrase when synonymous with adulthood it is.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I don't know if that's really what I want to believe. I feel like that's what I have been taught.
Mm-hmm.
That like if you're hit a certain age, you're mature. How many times have, they're like respect your elders, and it's just understanding that, this grandparent or so is mature. But that's not necessarily the case all the time.
Mm.
There's some 60-year-olds who are out here and just, according to my definition, like when it comes to like having like just developing and knowing self
Mm-hmm.
and kind of caring for self, which is a mix of the Google definition as well, but just I just don't feel like you can judge based off of age solely.
Okay. Okay. I have questions, but I think I'll wait until after we get into our impact. I would like to move on to the impact now. Have you? It was your definition complete?
My definition is complete.
Okay, perfect. So then now we're gonna move on to the impact and talk about the impact of this on our lives. So for me, I think the impact is that for a long time I held on to this idea that I had to act a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
that to be a good kid or a good person even I needed to be rational and logical and well behaved, and I feel like that ultimately stunted my growth.
And
um,
that matches Google's definition.
hmm I feel like the impact is that I felt burdened by the weight of other people's opinion on my life,
That part.
right? And I didn't really recognize it, and I've said this before about a lot of things, but I didn't really recognize that because it wasn't necessarily the world at large that I cared about. Like I could give a rat's ass about random people and what they think about me. Like I don't give a fuck, bitch. But my family, my friends, their opinions really mattered to me. And for a long time I was the mom friend. I was a friend you could rely on. I was a friend who's gonna plan things so that it'll happen. I was the friend who's got it all together, but in reality, I didn't. Not for real anyway. Um, I have just started to cut loose a little bit. Started to redefine what maturity looks like, or the way that I want to present to the world looks like for myself. I've set new parameters, and I'm moving in ways that serve me regardless of what the greater community thinks about it or not. And I think that has been, I've had to go through so many shifts. I'm getting to this place of things that, and it's kind of like this thing where you look at somebody else doing something and you judge them for it, even though you kind of want to do that thing. You kind of want to be where they are. And I feel that way about a lot of shit in life. I feel like people look at other people doing and living freely, without the confines that you've been confined to, without the parameters or the barriers that have been put on you. And there's this sort of envious nature of like, how dare you be out here living fucking freely while I'm holding myself to this, sort of regard. And so, yeah, that's been the impact so far, is that I've had like um, a lot of mental gymnastics I've had to work through to just break out of this, like, what is respectable, which is like, I feel like synonymous with maturity. What is, the right thing to do for them, and like fuck me, like just don't, it doesn't have anything to do with me. What is the right thing to do for them? And it's like, what the fuck, I'm not going to be doing the right thing for them, and meanwhile I'm struggling, hate it, horrible, like, no, it's dumb. um
That's
so
exactly what I
yeah.
was saying. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was saying. Like that's why the Google definition like really just like it was like a slap in the face or like a punch,
Yeah.
really. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
who am I doing this for?
Right. Like the fuck.
I mean, you touched on some really you touched on a lot of
Yeah.
things that I definitely that just vibrate with me and resonate with me strongly, especially this part about the part that you mentioned about seeing somebody doing something that you low key want to do, but you
Mm-hmm.
feel like you don't have permission to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, how dare they, the audacity for you to go and do this thing that we all have been told is, against what society has deemed respectable,
Right.
or the way to behave, or within the proper time frame.
Right.
Um, and it's like, but there's that envy, and they want to do it too, and in a way to kind of like back you up, they
Mm-hmm.
just slap immaturity on it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, that's immature, and
Mm-hmm.
and even when they do that to you as a person who's just out here living your life, you do get taken aback, because we all have received this joint communal message that to be mature is to do what society says.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if you're immature, you're out of order and you're out
Out
of
of
line.
order. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh man.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So what's
all of
been the
that.
impact for you then?
I think I had a similar impact that,
Yeah.
I really did a lot of pandering, and to the masses. I just realized that I have a major issue with the term mature. You could even see just in my presentation, like
Yeah.
I feel it. I feel it like in my chest. My throat is a little tight. Got a little headache. I'm just like, ugh, mature. Ugh, you know.
Yeah.
And I have a major issue with the term mature because I have a major issue with the term adult.
Mm.
And I've always thought, being an adult was synonymous with being mature, like we kind of stumbled upon or spoke briefly on earlier.
Mm.
Um, but then now, in kind of talking about the definition based on what Google said, it's also this whole idea about, American society
Mm.
and what they want and what they consider adulthood to be.
Mm.
So labeling things as mature or immature based on the American concept of adulthood.
Mm.
And that has caused me to diminish aspects of myself that I felt were perceived as immature by others, which is
Mm.
what you said,
Mm.
or similar to what you said. Um, and I feel now in hindsight, after I reflect on it and kind of think about it according to my own definition of
Mm.
mature and immature, that conducting myself in that way made me immature for real,
Mhm.
because, or as in undeveloped or not whole according to my
Mm.
own definition,
Mhm.
you know and that caused me to hold back pieces of myself and leave them wilting in darkness, and
Mm.
most likely because they didn't fit the standard, which is really just sameness.
Right.
um and I didn't allow myself to shed lights on parts of me that maybe would make me stand out as an individual, parts
Mhm.
that are specifically for me and from me, the
Mhm.
unique parts, the
Mhm.
parts that no one else has, out of fear.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So that's been the impact.
Yeah.
I've always struggled to come across as mature according to society's standard. And as I grow older and mature,
Mhm.
according to my own definition, I realize that there is no damn standard.
Period.
Everybody is trying to look the part. We have no
Mhm.
idea what the part is. We're all improvising. We don't know. And what I think is a nod to my maturity is that I don't feel like I need to pretend that I do know anymore. And
Hell
that
yeah.
opens me up to learning more and growing more and evolving and actually maturing.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
I love that.
yeah, I just, ah, yes, just, ah.
Yeah. That I feel like, essentially what you're saying and what I was saying is that maturity has just felt inauthentic because of the sameness, like you said. It has felt that, to be mature is to be outside of yourself. And I
To be
don't,
close. Hmm.
yeah, I don't feel like that's true. I don't feel like that's right. Because like you're saying, if we were to look at a plant and the only pieces that were doing good were these certain pieces and the rest were wilting away, we wouldn't say that plant is mature. Like you were saying, if we take away adulthood and all that in a human sense, and we look at anything else, if we see a part of a banana and only this part is ripe, but the rest is underdeveloped and wilting and no, we wouldn't say that. The whole thing needs to be completely done for us to feel like it's ripe. It all needs the attention. Even that little brown piece that people don't want to eat, you're like, ew, that part needs to be that part.
in order for it to be a banana. Like, you know, it needs to all be done, you know?
That leads me to my question.
Oh,
I have a
ask
question.
it. Ask it.
Do you think full maturity is possible?
Mm. Do I think full maturity is possible? Um, in the sense that now I've redefined for myself what maturity is, and I think it's just an evolution. It's just growing and taking on, you know, an understanding of yourself and the world and how you want to present to the world, and having all these pieces of yourself sort of fit together. You know, I think we're a puzzle, and I think when you start to put yourself together, you are gaining maturity. I don't know that we ever get to the point of a full picture,
Mm.
uh, because I feel like until you die, you're still growing, you're still learning. You know, I don't feel like you're ever done, right?
Amen, sis. Hey, no, like that's exactly what I'm saying. I don't think I think we're maturing.
Yes.
I think it's an ongoing, active
Mhm.
process. I don't think there's an end point, and I think that's part of my issue with the term mature
Yes.
because it makes it seem like there's an end point, like you
Yes.
are mature. I'm
Okay.
like, I am maturing,
Period. I'm still growing, motherfucker.
right? I'm gonna grow
Yeah.
until I'm not,
Yeah. Okay, that is my issue too. I'm really glad you put that into words because it just feels so finite.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why I struggle with myself, and that's why I'm struggling with accepting pieces, new pieces of myself that are developing, because I'm like, but I thought I was done, because
Yeah.
that me that I had erected was mature,
Okay.
you
Okay.
know. And now it seems like because I don't know and I'm uncertain and I'm
Uh,
trying new things, that all
uh,
of a sudden I'm like, am I immature now?
right.
And I think it's just good for me to understand, no, I'm always maturing. Even when I thought I was mature, I was maturing.
Huh. I love that. I love that. Wow. Yeah. I fucks with it. I fucks with it. That's dope.
Right.
That's a cool ass understanding. Did you have more questions or are we moving on to the code?
I have I have tons of questions, but you had a question earlier, and I don't know if you remember
It's
it.
gone now.
It's gone.
It's above me
Okay.
now.
Okay. So before we get to the code, I
Okay.
think we also touched on this,
Okay.
but I just kind of want to like ask the question because then it'll frame my next question.
Okay.
So, what do you think American society of maturity is, and where do you think it came from? Like, what is it based off of?
Well, I feel like there's two different standards of maturity. I
That was gonna
feel
be another
like
question.
okay, sorry, I'm
But
going
no,
to
no, go
again, but
ahead. No,
I
tell me.
feel like um, there is a respectability that Black people are meant to have in order to be safe. There is a maturity level or a certain understanding that we are meant to have very early on about how to behave, especially in spaces that are mixed company. I'm doing that in quotes. Um, and I feel like, yeah, that's taught early on. And I feel like it came from just, you know, minding your P's and Q's so you didn't die, you know, when we first got to this country. And I feel like it's bled on. It's the whole notion of like, oh, these black men need to put on suits and pull their pants up and do this, and black women need to stop showing their ass and being sexual and da 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 da. Like all this stuff that is seen as how we so that we can be perceived as human, so that we can be perceived as deserving of respect, so that we can be perceived as being deserving of life. And it stems from, you know, it stems from where everything stems from, you know, regarding this type of comment in about American society, which is slavery, which is, you know, this idea that if you acted a certain way, you would be protected from the malice of American society at large, which is white America. Um, so
Okay.
yeah, that's where I feel like it came from. And I don't feel like it's the same. You can see grown ass white men crying and being belligerent in the office of the presidency as a candidate for Supreme Court, being accused of sexual harassment. He can, you know, be just as emotional and wildly ridiculous as he wants to. But then you have black women having to be very calm and very strategic about how they respond to certain things in order to be seen as calm and, you know, worthy of being listened to and respect and things of that nature. And so um,
Yeah.
The angry black woman narrative, which is seen as immature, which speaks to your aggression earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it all comes down to control.
Exactly.
I feel like that maturity is like they slap that on to you
Mm-hmm.
as a way of putting you in your place and
Period.
maintaining control. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my question, because I was going to say, do you think there's a different standard of maturity for men versus women
Mm-hmm.
versus people of color? And you answered that definitely for like people of color.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's a different standard of maturity for men and women as
Mm-hmm.
well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
men can watch cartoons and play video games and play sports and go out on ATVs and throw their babies off balconies, and that's just seen as, oh man, even boys, like boys will be boys, that term, but young
Mm-hmm.
girls, oh, cross your legs. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that also is kind of speaks to this whole danger aspect. Like, we were told a lot of things as girls because there was fear
Mm-hmm.
that there were predators around. Instead of checking predators, they want to check a 4-year-old or a six
Right.
year old or
Right.
13-year-old or 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 21-year-old, any woman.
Mm-hmm.
um so there's this standard of, if you're mature as a woman, period, that you wear certain clothing or you don't wear certain clothing, and that you conduct yourself in a certain manner,
Mm-hmm.
where men can walk down the street scratching their nuts and nobody cares.
Right. Right.
Sit with their legs sprawled open, nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
But women, like, if you were to burp in public, that's not ladylike, that's not
Right.
mature.
Right.
Um so yeah, there's definitely different standards, and I think the root is control.
Yeah.
They want to keep certain people in control based on certain standards, and not all of the standards are the same.
Right. And it's a
um
bullshit.
Absolutely. So then that leads me to my last question.
Okay.
um the standard of maturity that exists in American society, do you feel like it is relevant today, or does it need some adjustment? And I already know the answer.
Right. It needs adjustment. I mean, that was an easy. That was a layup. That was a layup. It's obvious that it needs adjustment. I mean, there's so many things that are put in place in our society as a whole that need adjustment. We just need to relook at everything, because like you said, a lot of this shit is based on control, and it's based on fear, and it's based on all these negative, attributes of our society. And I feel like, yeah, we need to relook at what it means to be ladylike. We need to look at what it means to be free. We need to look at what it means to be human and to be whole and to be full of life and joy and all these things. We need to look at that. Yeah, definitely need to take a look and readjust and and that's not to say that if you naturally, which I don't even know if that's really a thing, because we've all been conditioned since birth. We're all brainwashed to think American, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all brainwashed to think that way because we were born here, and it's understandable. So if you naturally, and again, I'm saying that in quotes, want to dress very wholesome, and even that word is, whatever. But if you want to dress, and cover yourself in your entirety, and that is what you want to do, then that is beautiful, and that shouldn't be condemned. If you want to show your entire ass, that also should not be condemned. And there's no, I think we have this idea of what is more, what is better. And yeah, I would love to redefine it. I would love for us to have a conversation about why, like you said, the control is obvious, an obvious answer, but just kind of, yeah, I would love to rethink these things.
So pretty much, in a nutshell, society is still maturing.
That's true. Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, that's obvious. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So
Society is still maturing.
society is still maturing. So at this point, I'm not like, I'm maturing, society's maturing. It is what it is. They don't know, I don't know.
Period.
So this whole like finite, stance on society's standard of what it is to be mature. I'm like, society is still maturing. Their
Yeah.
standard is still maturing. It's not even set in stone.
Yeah.
So how how can you even hold yourself to that standard if it's not a set standard?
Right. Right.
Or maybe it is a set standard, and well, I think we're trying to make it set. And we're clearly outgrowing it. And I think we see that in, all the stuff that's happening, like what happened at the Capitol, even now with like, the emergence of like pronouns and people really advocating for their space and to be, named correctly or addressed correctly because society didn't have room for that. So there's this way in which we're kind of like society is like bursting at the seams where people with like these things, because we're trying to make room, we're trying to grow, we're trying to evolve, but then there's this standard that's trying to hold us captive.
Right.
So yeah. It sounds like it's a mess. It sounds like society is also a mess.
It is a whole ass mess. But go ahead.
So I might as well do what I want.
Period. And that leads us to the cope, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we're going to tell you how we're coping. I'll start. I am coping by cutting an absolute fool out here.
Hey, that's where it is. That's what it is.
Yes. Now, but for real, I'm coping by addressing areas in my life where I feel hindered because it's not the right thing, in quotes, or mature thing, again, in quotes, to do. As y'all know, because you've been following along, I've been working a lot less and a lot less than I've worked in my whole life, honestly. And it may not be the mature thing for me, but right now it's the right thing for me. I'm wearing less and less and less clothes and being incredible.
Okay.
I'm wearing crop tops and mini dresses and whatever my heart desires. Like I'm posting more pictures on the interwebs because it makes me feel good to share. I cope by releasing the notion that maturity looks some sort of rigid way. I cope by releasing maturity, or realizing actually that maturity comes with loving and understanding myself fully, resting in that and allowing it the ability to live out loud unencumbered. That is how I am coping.
Okay, for the midriff out.
Period.
All this hot girl summer.
Hot girl, fall, winter, spring, hot girl.
Because you're in LA.
Period.
It's always 70 degrees. Good for you.
64 day the other day. It was quite
Oh.
I put on a jacket.
A jacket. Okay. Okay. We don't have jackets. We have coats. Boots. With a base in it.
You're dumb. But okay, so how are you coping?
Hold up. Before I get to my cope, I just wanted to, you said something.
Okay.
You said, and it may not be the mature thing, but it's right for me. And I'm just like, the fact that we could think that something that's not right for us is mature, it's just asinine.
It is.
But we really do believe that. Like if I know it calms me to watch the Misadventures of Gumball, or King of the Hill. Like I know that's gonna calm me down, but I'm saying that's immature, so I'm not gonna go watch it and have that make me feel better because it's not mature. What are we doing?
Being ridiculous.
And then what do we go do? We do the mature thing, which is to drink.
Oh wow.
Not really.
I was like, damn.
But like there's certain things that are held as, oh, this is mature. This is what adults do.
That's true. Like a glass of wine. You're right. People say I'm gonna have a glass of wine to wind down. Yeah.
I know people who have had a whole bottle and they come to work and they're like, ha ha, I drank a whole bottle of wine and didn't even know it. I'm like, you have children. You all right?
Are they all right?
Right. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that because I feel like that's crazy, but we all feel that way. Oh, I can't do that because that's immature. Or like simple things like drawing, oh, I can't draw because I'm not that good and I'm too old, or it's not mature to doodle and make stick figures. Look, I don't care what age you are. If that stick figure makes you happy, draw some damn stick figures. Draw a whole stick figure family, stick figure village, stick figure society. I don't care.
Not stick figure society.
It's not hurting anybody. It's not hurting yourself. Just have fun. Do fingerprint painting. Just do whatever. It's just the fact that things are micromanaged to such small, simple pleasures. Things that really could help you cope with your existence. It's like, nah, don't do that because children do it. What?
Yeah.
I just and then people just look at you dead in your face, and I think it's the audacity of you just trying to even just step outside of that standard.
Yeah.
It frightens people, it scares people, and then they cut
Hmm.
their eyes at you. They're like, something wrong with you. You ain't right.
Something wrong with you. Yeah.
She up here doodling. That's
Uh-uh.
she 35,
I
drunk.
hear doodling.
Right. I was
That's funny.
like, but to my cope.
Yeah.
Um, I cope by taking adulthood out of my definition for now
Mm.
until I can explore what it means to be an adult for myself, not based on society's definition or based on, this idea of maturity, which is, held up by society standards.
Yeah.
Because, now I acknowledge that, maturity and adulthood, they can be two separate things.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even know if adulthood is like something I even vibe with,
Mm.
I don't know if maturity is, well, I'm still working these things out.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe that's another topic we have. What is adulthood? Because I need to figure that out. I need to figure because the adulthood I knew was you got kids, you got a house or an apartment, you got a car, you got a job, you're an adult. And
Mm.
I'm like, I don't have kids, I have a car and an apartment, and a job now. Um, but is that it? Is that
Mm-hmm.
it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's me going off on a tangent. But I also cope by thinking and feeling for myself and
Mm-hmm.
not worrying about what everyone else has to say because I don't know and they don't know either,
Right.
And even if we say that we do, there's a great possibility that we don't, and that's okay. It's impossible to know everything.
Yeah.
So I'm just worrying about how I feel about it. That's the only thing I can really know. And holding on to this stagnant and stale idea of maturity has prevented me from knowing myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I no longer want to partake in that. And I think that's what we're trying to do here with this podcast and taking things down is to really get to these words and these terms, these concepts that have been, fed to us.
Yeah.
Since you get your social security number, okay, this is an immature child. Make it mature.
Mm-hmm.
And society says mature is what Google said, knowing how to behave at a certain time and be respectful according to the society you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, I'm just trying to just think for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is as simple as it sounds. It's a lot of work to unlearn things that were taught to us from infancy. How to behave. We don't cry in public. We don't make too much of a fuss. We don't make a ruckus. We don't do all these things so that we can perform and behave well in this society. And it takes a lot of who we are out of the mix. It takes a lot of how we naturally feel out of the mix. And so yeah, this was a dope ass topic.
Right. I just want to add to that because you're talking about it, like these
Hmm.
things that we don't do. And I feel like we avoid doing these things. And I feel like the only way for you to truly know something is to experience it.
Yeah.
And if you don't allow yourself to experience it, then you replace that knowledge or that desire for knowledge with fear.
Hmm.
And then you're walking around with this fear of, oh yeah, I wanted to skateboard, but I was too old to skateboard at the age of
Hmm.
12. So now I just like I'm afraid of it. So
Hmm.
now if I see somebody who's older than me on a skateboard, I'm just like, oh, that's immature.
Hmm.
It's fear.
Hmm.
And I don't want to live like that. So
I feel it. I
so
feel it. Yeah.
that's why we do this. That's why we dig things down so that we can, work through the narrative, dispel any untruths,
Hmm.
personal untruths. I mean, it can still
Yeah.
be true for other people, but
Yeah.
to discover my personal truth about a lot of things that society has pushed on us. Um, and to just know for myself so I don't live in fear, so I can experience,
Yeah.
so that I can have a knowing for myself.
Right. Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I
A
try.
knowing for yourself.
That's
Yes.
that's what it's
So
all about.
that's really it. So then are we to the recap?
Oh, we absolutely are. Take it
Okay,
away.
lovely. So now we are to the recap, and both Rena and myself have
found negative connotations in the word maturity, which seemed to stem from this idea that it was a narrow and rigid path to adulthood, which neither of us deemed to be fun. Knowing that we don't want to or realistically can't fit into said definition, we have both decided to redefine the word for ourselves.
That's it. That
Yeah,
is it.
that's
That
it.
is it.
That is
That's it.
it. Yeah. So this has been a dope ass episode. Were there any shout outs that you wanted to give? Um, or shall we move on to the meditation?
I mean, as usual, I just want to shout out to people listening to us who resonate with this episode. Who are trying to figure things out for themselves. That's what we're trying to do here on this podcast. So just shout out to you. Shout
Yeah.
out to all of you.
Yeah, and I want to shout out all the people who have been giving me little tips and tidbits of wisdom throughout this past week and really my whole life. I appreciate all of the understanding, because I don't have it all together for myself, and I don't feel like I have to. So I'm grateful for those who are willing to impart their wisdom onto me. So that's my shout out for this week, and I think that brings us to my favorite part, which is the meditation. What we're going to do is take a couple deep breaths. We'll set an intention. We'll take a couple more deep breaths, and then I will let you go about your day. So what I'd like you to do for me is to take a big deep breath. We'll take a second deep breath. Take one more deep breath. Okay, now we'll set an intention. My intention is to continue maturing, to understand that what I am now doesn't have to remain, and what I grow to be will be beautiful, just the same.
I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
My intention is to continue to define things for myself, get to know myself, and rest in my own understanding of maturity and who I am.
Yeah, I love that. We'll take our second set of breaths. Take a big deep breath with me. We'll take a second deep breath. And we'll take our last deep breath. All right. Your intention has been set for the day. Go out there and flourish this. Today doesn't have to be a mess.
But it's okay if it is.
Liz, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in again. We really appreciate your continued support. It has been so fun to just see that you guys are following along, to hear all the feedback from all of you guys from different various, like in person, over Gmail, in the inbox. We love hearing you guys' feedback. It's been so great. Speaking of feedback, we're gonna have a live after this episode is posted. We'd love to see you Monday at 6 p.m. In order to dig down what you feel maturity is. Do you feel mature? Do you feel like you resonate with the word at all? We would love to hear what you think about it. So please join us.
It's a mess.
Hey, that's why
It's
I
a
can't
mess.
sing.
It's okay. He's gonna talk over my singing though. Okay, it's ready now.